Welcome to Whitfield the Podcast, brought to you exclusively by TapeWrite.com and AmericanWatchman.org. I am your host, Sam Whitfield. On this episode, I will be talking to Sarah Hagmayer, who is one of the infamous Trump twins, who was discovered back in the summer of 2016 for a series of provocative yet patriotic bikini pictures that she and her sister took and posted to social media. Sarah and her sister Samantha both grew to become internet sensations of sorts, and they went on a massive media tour across the country and even extending over to the UK and Europe. The media, however, the mainstream media that is, portrayed Sarah and her sister Sam as bimbos and dumb blondes who were just supporting Trump because they were just blonde party girls or some nonsense like that. Well, I was fortunate enough to friend Sarah and her sister via Facebook over the summer, and although I only know them online, I can tell you from personal experience that they're both very charismatic and well-spoken, and they're actually very passionate about what they're doing. They're passionate about America. They love this country just as much as I do, and they're real, genuine young women. So I wanted to interview Sarah to really find out what their journey was about, how they got started in politics, and how they were treated by the media, and basically who they are as real people as opposed to what the media would like you to believe. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I will say Sarah Hagmayer joining me now via Skype, and Sarah, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So, I have a lot of questions for you. First of all, we've been trying to set this up for, I think, the last 6 months or so, but you obviously have been quite busy saving the world from globalism and the scourge of Hillary Clinton. And thank God Trump won, because I wanted to do this interview either way, but it's a lot less awkward now as opposed to my alternate set of questions, which would have been, what do we do now if Hillary won? But first of all, I just wanted to thank you for coming on the program, and it's an honor to have you.
No, thank you. It's quite the privilege and honor to be here.
So, well, thank
I've
you.
been looking forward, and it's finally that, thank God, we can finally do it. It's been too long.
It has, but we're here now, and we're here in Trump's America, so that's the best. That's the best part. So my first question to you is, how did you get involved in politics? Was Trump your first campaign, or had you been interested in politics before? How did you, and your sister, if you want to include her in this, become interested in politics?
Well, we have always been interested in politics because I'm sure in a lot of other like most households, the news is always on. And in my house, of course, we prefer Fox News, and Fox News has always been on, and you just watch, and it's like, you get your emotions stirred up, because if you're patriotic and you love your country, you want to get involved. And especially because when Obama won both times, I wasn't able to vote. I kind of just had to sit back and watch. And this election in particular, and I'm sure you as well, Sam, and a lot of other students and, younger Americans as well, we didn't want to just watch the results. We didn't just want to, just vote. We wanted to get involved and kind of have a bigger voice in, American politics. So I got involved, and Donald Trump, he was not my first, but I feel like he was. Um, Before the primaries really began, my family, like, we liked Marco Rubio. I think, like, a lot of people thought he was kind of like the Republican, um, JFK. But, as the primaries really began, Donald Trump just kind of was like, that's the guy. And he kept on going. And I just knew that he was going to be a president. I just wanted to help him win. And I thought that he was the strongest candidate, and I believed in him. And I wanted him to become the nominee and president. So I started to campaign and voice for him. And like, we're in his presidency right now, and it worked. So it was wonderful.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's funny that you mentioned that. You know, I you mentioned being not able to vote in the previous two elections. And that's very true. I think
Wasn't it frustrating just watch Obama win? Did you watch him win? I did. It was
yeah,
horrible. First time was in Disney World for my family, and it was. I say this all the time. It was like not the happiest place in the world the next day.
yeah. Well, for me, I've been doing this podcast and blogging since I was about 14 or 15. I think I was 14. I've been doing it so long now. It's all kind of become a blur. But I mean, I've been active, as a voice for what feels like forever now. And I'm sure you have, but it's not the same as actually being able to vote. And I was 3 months short of being able to vote for Mitt Romney in the last election, which was
You're right.
yeah, which was really frustrating. So you kind of answered my second question, which was how you became interested in Trump, but you touched on something there that I think a lot of people who have followed you or may have just looked at you and your sister on the surface might not realize, which is that you weren't for Trump initially. You were for Rubio.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people, at least kind of from what I've seen, they see you and your sister and they automatically think of you guys as the Trump cheerleaders from the beginning. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of perceptions, not just about you guys, but about young conservatives in general, especially those of us who voted for Trump, that we were all on the Trump train to begin with.
Absolutely. There's this, a lot of people who, and I think the media kind of create it, and the pictures, people, it's like you don't judge a book by the cover, but like people do anyway. And with Sam and I, like with those pictures, like people think that Trump people were just bandwagoners. They thought that this movement was kind of just like getting more and more and more powerful. And then people were just kind of hopping on board because they saw where it was going and they didn't think what Trump was doing. They didn't think about his plan. They didn't think about anything about what he was actually doing. They just thought that, hey, he's winning. He's doing really great in the primaries. I'm going to vote for him. But like a lot of people like myself, maybe you, maybe others, like I thought about the candidates, especially Republicans. We had 16, 17,
Yeah.
a lot of choices. My governor was on that, that
Yeah.
lineup. Carly Fiorina, I listened to one of her books. I followed Marco Rubio for a while. And Ben Carson, like all these great, phenomenal candidates. But Donald Trump, like, he was the one that a lot of people just kind of went through. And it wasn't like all of them probably could have done a good job. And they all said that about that on the stage about each other. Like any one of us could do a great job. But it's almost about, okay, I guess, connects the best with the people. And that's what Donald Trump did the best. He kind of had that voice where, that anti-political correctness that a lot of people were like, wow, he's saying everything that's just on my mind right now. Like, this is amazing. And but he's saying things and creating a plan at the same time, and he's bringing all these new, he has all these extra skills from being a big businessman, and he knows all these people, and he's doing a great job, and that's what I think. I think what I and a lot of other people are like, no, we weren't just bandwagoners. We actually thought about our decision.
Yeah, and I
thought the same way.
Yeah, and I think it wasn't just that he was politically incorrect, because I think a lot of conservatives don't necessarily ascribe to the political correctness model. In fact, no one I know, in the conservative spectrum ascribes to that. I think, though, for me at least, it wasn't only that Trump was politically incorrect, it was that not only was he politically incorrect, but he was able to give the middle finger to the media and the left and even the establishment GOP, who...
The establishment GOP, they were the worst. They were the worst. And that was the best part about this whole movement, is that it weeded out all of those people. You saw their true colors, especially because when he was failing and when the media brought him down to the lowest point, like after the Hollywood tapes, you saw what people were still on board and still trying to help him win, and who were just, out for their own good. And he won anyway,
Well, we'll get to the infamous tapes in a while, because there's a story about you and I don't think you might not remember it in your Twitter storm, but I'll refresh your memory. But the first question I want to get to you about, regarding how you and your sister came to prominence, people have been wondering how the infamous Trump girl swimsuit photos came to be, and whose idea that was. And first of all, before you answer, I just have to say I think that was a brilliant move, because I don't know if you remember, but back in 2008, there was Obama Girl, who basically did the same thing. And I remember back in 2009 or 2010 saying on my show that we need some sort of extreme cultural shift like that for the conservative movement. And people are saying, oh, that'll never happen. Conservatives are too prudish. Someone tweeted me about you and your sister and said it's the Obama girls except for Trump, and that's how I found you guys. And
no way.
Honestly, you guys, along with Milo and Gavin, you guys are two of my heroes for upsetting the culture like that. So, but anyway, how did that whole idea come about?
You know what? It's really funny. And actually, a few days ago was the 1-year anniversary of the one photo. And what's actually even funnier is I'm more of the reserve twin, but
yeah,
it was my idea.
Yeah, I figured that out.
Yeah. Sam is really outgoing, and normally she's the one to do all these. She's the one that likes to take all the pictures and the selfies, and I'm the one that honestly doesn't really even do that. You'll see on my Instagram I have less followers because I don't really put myself out there that much. But it was actually my idea, and in New Jersey, like the Northeast, around this time last year, we were getting hit with our first blizzard of the season, and it was a state of emergency. Everyone was snowed in, and I told Sam, I was like, how funny would it be if we got in our patriotic bikinis, and we had one MAGA hat and we had a Reagan Bush hat, and we went outside and took a picture. Like took a couple pictures and just kind of put it on our Instagram and, entertained people. And of course, and showed our spirit because we love Donald Trump. We're proud conservatives, like we're American girls. That this is what it's all about. We're in the snow. And we did it. And, it was funny because we actually joked about it going viral because sometimes when you do crazy stuff like that, like that's what happens. You don't realize it, but like it does go viral. Little as I know, a few months later, those pictures were the ones that ended up going viral. And it was fun, though, because my mom actually took the pictures, and sometimes she wishes that she didn't.
Really?
But, yeah, my mom, because they were like, oh, Mom, like, it's just for fun, like, take the pictures. It's silly fun in the snow. And she took the pictures, and a few months later, a friend, what made them go viral was a friend submitted them to the Base for Trump account, and then Huffington Post used them as clickbait, and then that's what kind of made them go all over the world. But it's okay, though,
So HuffPo, the epitome of fake journalism, ironically made you guys into the stars that you guys are. I love it. No, and I think kind of what you touched on. You guys are, American girls, and you wanted to get that, whole kind of spirit of Americana out there.
Sam and I, we are so patriotic. We have Sam and I, we have book bags that are patriotic. It has it's like stars and stripes on them. We have like American flag apparel. We're so patriotic.
You guys also do paintings too, if I'm not mistaken.
Sam, her theme for senior year in art class, like you have to kind of pick a theme of what your paintings are going to be, and she chose Americana, and that everything that she did was like red, white, and blue, and that was her theme, and we've always been. We have pictures of when we were middle school, when we were in patriotic bikinis too, and we've just always just loved being patriotic. It's just something that we've always just been proud to be. We've always just proud to have been the small town American girls, Mm-hmm. It's just who we are.
Well, the interesting thing, I was actually talking to a friend about this about 2 nights ago. We were talking, and it dawned on me, all of the hardcore Trump supporters, not all of them, but the vast majority of the really hardcore Trump supporters that I know of are female. They're all women. Guys got into the movement too, but most guys, all we do is wear the hat. You guys have accessories and T-shirts and whatnot. So I wanted to ask about that. Why do you think Trump and Trumpism appeals to so many women when, there are themes of when the media tries to make up this meme about Trump being a sexist and a misogynist?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's crazy. There's been so many times where, I have my Trump apparel on, or I have my laptop with my stickers on, and there will be an older guy, and they're like, wait, you're a Trump supporter? And he's kind of shocked. And it's like, yeah, I'm a Trump supporter. I love Donald Trump. And he's like, I didn't know you guys existed. Like he's surprised. And I think there's this like female Trump supporters. It's almost like they have to prove a point, like prove their existence. And they kind of like female Trump supporters, we have a little bit more fun doing it in some circumstances. But gosh, the media, they didn't even acknowledge us. They They don't shine light. That's why, debates like date nothing, They didn't want to really even kind of even say that Donald Trump had female supporters because, gosh, that would mean that Donald Trump isn't a misogynist, he isn't against women's rights, it would just kind of dismantle their whole political, agenda plan for the left. Because the left, Hillary, that's all they ran for.
Yeah, and I think
women's champion for women, but here Donald Trump had plenty of women, if not tons of enthusiastic women that loved him. We loved Donald Trump. Women loved Donald Trump.
well, I'll tell you what, the turning point for me with Trump, because I was a Rubio supporter through and through. I when Trump first announced, I've always liked him as a celebrity and a public figure, but I thought he was nuts, especially once he started shooting his mouth off, and I thought that there was no way he would win. But then once he finally got a week before the nomination was officially announced, Rubio had dropped out, and at that point I knew Trump was going to win anyway. So I was actually in New York City, and I went in to Trump Tower. I went into the epicenter, which is where I actually got this hat I'm wearing, and
you couldn't get more authentic than that.
I had a chance to talk to, they have the elevators in the main lobby that take you from place to place. Well, I started a conversation, and being kind of the investigative journalist I am, I noticed that the elevator man was Hispanic. So I started talking with him. This guy has worked for Trump for 30 years, and he told me point blank, don't believe any of the BS the media says about Trump. I've worked here for 30 years, and he's been great to me and my family, and he treats everyone here extremely well, and I've always been really blessed to work for him. And in New York City, nonetheless, where, Manhattan is overpopulated by liberals, more or less,
Oh,
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
It's
like, and there's actually a lot of stories where Donald Trump's employees or, his family friends have stepped forward and were like, no, that's wrong, that's liberal, just BS, the media's telling lies, they're trying to spin it. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
That's also interesting that you were a Rubio fan for that long. I was a Rubio fan up until, not even honestly, not even until like the first debate. The first debate I was like, Donald Trump's my man. But like when my governor grilled Marco Rubio about the rehearsed lines, I was like, oh, that moment, I thought he was just done.
yeah, that I have
the 30-second line again.
I have to admit that at that point, I pretty much knew that Marco was done.
Yeah.
And
Marco Rubio, he's such a good guy, and I hope he does keep running because I think he would make a great president.
My ideal dream would be to have Trump win again.
Oh yeah,
in 20.
He already says he's gonna run. He's for the next 8 years.
And then after Trump gets out, I would love a Rubio candidacy.
Me too.
Speaking of going back to media, though, you and your sister actually got some international coverage, and one of the reasons why I was actually so intent on interviewing you was I saw how the media interviewed you
Hmm.
guys. And I don't want to put words into your mouth or,
Yeah,
try and spin it. But from my perspective, it seemed to me like they edited did a lot of your stuff out to make you guys. And I hate to be blunt, but they kind of made you guys seem like blonde, dumb bimbos
yeah, absolutely.
who were somehow sexually attracted to Trump and wanted to do him or something like that. That was how the left spun it in my view.
Yeah, honestly, you are not wrong at all. In many cases, we had there were a few interviews that were straightforward, just the facts. It was actually quite interesting. There were only a few because what we learned was there was American journalism and international journalism, and there were a lot of cases with international journalism that were fantastic. They went great. And there were some cases where it was fun. Like Germany, like everything that we did with Germany was just kind of like straightforward. They just wanted the facts. They just wanted the story. They didn't want to recreate the story. Things that we did with Britain that were not BBC was eh. They were they didn't recreate the story, but they definitely edited it to make it kind of like to their agenda
Yeah.
part. We did other things with Great Britain, like the Joey Essex thing was just like, oh my gosh, like that was just stupid. But then everything with American journalism, it was there were some articles where it was literally they would take our answers and just put them in the article. Regardless, I worked with Stylecaster, and she was a Hillary supporter, but she did nothing to my answers. But there were other cases where, gosh, like I did a phone interview with this guy, and it was for Marie Claire, and it was for Marie Claire in Australia, and I was like, okay, this is probably gonna be fine. Oh my gosh, no! He totally made me out to look like just a bimbo and a dumb blonde who didn't know anything that was going on in the election. And I was just out to have fun, and I was having the time of my life. And he even went as far as to write an entire piece about me on his blog about what kind of girl I probably am. And I was just mortified because I was just like, you don't know me, you're just like recreating a character. And
Yeah.
it was insane, like how these people would use us as a character and not as a person with knowledge. We weren't people with intellect. We were just characters for their story. And that was the most interesting part, especially because it was, we were associated with the picture, which I understand that, the prejudice, that comes with it. Because it's like, what do you expect? Girls in a bikini with hats in the snow, like, gosh. But when you do interview and you actually have knowledge and you know what's going on and you can prove them with facts and you see how they just snip it, snip it, snip it to just make you look like stupid because you're a Trump supporter. It was terrifying. It was scary. It proved what the media was after, and it was just it was a lesson. You can't learn that by anything else. You just have to kind of, I guess, learn yourself. But
Well, and
it was something different, I'll tell you that much.
then you also got some pretty vicious and pretty dark, comments on social media. Some of which, I mean, I would scroll through to see who was, who was tweeting at you. Some of them, were just crass, and you get that. Some of them though were also like borderline rapey, and
It was,
stuff stuff that I would have hoped, and I saw a couple times your boyfriend, and I jumped in there a couple times too, threatened to beat threatened to beat the shit out of people who were threatening you. I mean, did that seem weird? Did that phase you at
it,
all?
yeah, it was, it came to a point when, in the very beginning, um, like as a Trump supporter, like in my, how I was raised, it was, thank God I was raised the way I was because I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of where I grew up. I'm just, you, thank God I was like raised with pride and to not let other people deteriorate me because if I let those people just bring me down, like, I don't know where I would be at because they were destructive. They wanted to bring me down. They wanted to just, they had a mission with Trump supporters across the board. They wanted to just, like, they wanted to just say the meanest things. They wanted to just prove you wrong so you would be quiet and not use your voice ever again, to not, share, talk out to the world. It was insane. I've never gotten so much backlash for, honestly, my biggest one was just, honestly, I was telling a joke. My biggest tweet that I had that went viral, I made a joke, and it was like using it about myself. Like a joke's about getting a nose job, and then like, oh, I'm not gonna get a nose job though. Like I'm gonna build a wall instead. All that kind of stuff. And like, people told me to go kill myself. Like,
Yeah,
who does that? Who does that? Like, what did I do wrong? Like, I was just kind of like, fooling around out there, and like, people told me to go die because I was supporting Trump. Like, what kind of world do we live in now where, I never took the time out of my day to tell a Hillary supporter, a Bernie Sanders supporter, regardless how I felt about they were supporting, to go die or kill themselves because they were, you know, exercising their rights as an American,
yeah,
It was insane. It was so negative. It was so depressing. It was sad. And it was draining, honestly. I think that was the worst part. It was like, how do you keep keeping yourself upbeat and motivated and positive? But honestly, I just thought to myself, I'm just like a person. Donald Trump is the one that's like getting the real backlash and the real hate. Like, I go on his tweets and like he's getting that every single day. And he has the media on his backs and like he keeps on going. So he was kind of like my motivation. And that's why, like, regardless of what kind of responses I was getting, I had great friends. I had, such an amazing support system. Trump supporters all around, we just banded together. Specifically, Republicans, all around, we just kind of stuck together. And, I think Donald Trump just kind of like led the group, and we just kind of kept on pressing on.
yeah,
Here we are today, winning,
and yeah,
and we keep winning.
yeah. We're gonna keep winning until we get sick of it. Although I don't know how that's possible because I'm just having a grand old time over here, just making America great again and whatnot.
Like, it's
Um,
day, what, 4? And we've already gotten so much done. And there's so much, I don't know, it's just honestly, it's an amazing feelings far. Everything that we all had to kind of go through to get to this point, it's been worth it, you know?
Yeah, it certainly has. It especially I don't know if you got the I don't know if you got this type of backlash, but um when I started out, I was friends with, people. I mean, I don't want to say I lost any friends because that's not I actually somehow managed to keep all my relationships somewhat intact, for the most part. However, I was friends with a lot of quote unquote conservatives who ended up being hashtag never Trump. And I actually argued with those people more than I did liberals because they were so against Trump because he didn't fit their narrative.
Me.
And I had told them, oh, I even at some point I messaged you about this before we got on the show, but a couple friends and I, we actually ended up starting our own blog in July because we had been writing for a blog
Hmm.
uh, called Red Millennial. It was pretty prominent among young conservatives, but we were all contributors there, and the editor there, it was her choice, and I respect it, but decided to she asked us all in like a Facebook poll who if we would support Donald Trump if he was the nominee. And I had written a piece way back at the end of 2015 when this whole thing first started saying, "Look, Trump's not my guy, but even if he gets the nomination, I'll support whoever it is against Hillary Clinton because she's that horrible." And uh,
Horrible hard.
yeah, it's an understatement. But once I
Yeah.
went full Trump, me and five other people were asked to leave, so we started our own blog. But yeah, yeah. So I mean, and I think that's the other thing. I think Trump supporters have been, unfairly treated by both the left and the quote unquote right too.
Yeah,
Um, so.
it's true. But it's like, I don't understand how, how can he be, and like, that was the other thing, during this entire election season, I got this sense of like haughty, attitude from, conservatives who were not Trump supporters and also Democrats who were Hillary supporters. It was like, oh, because I talked to a Hillary supporter who was honestly, it wasn't a Bernie Sanders supporter who turned into a Hillary supporter. It was an always Hillary Clinton supporter. And I'll tell you what, that attitude that this guy had was like, I'm too good to be a Bernie Sanders supporter. Because Bernie Sanders supporters, they had this attitude like, for the people, always for the people, anti-billionaires, blah, blah. And this guy was like, oh, I'm not Bernie Sanders supporter. Like, those people are, they're nobodies. Like, Hillary Clinton, like, this establishment, like, idea. And he had just kind of like this, like, prissy, like, snobby, kind of like, I don't know, just this demeanor about him. And I kind of feel like the conservatives that weren't supporting Trump kind of had that same way because, this guy who could be retired, could be enjoying, relaxing, doing things that he could spend money on, could be investing on. Here, he was just giving his reputation to just be ruined for the Republicans to have a chance to win the White House again. And because he wasn't a part of their, clique of Republican people in the White House, like, it was like he wasn't good enough, like they couldn't accept him, they couldn't take him in, they couldn't help him. It was like he was this, like, stray cat, that couldn't come inside. It was just like, I don't know. It was this horrible, horrible attitude that I will never forget. And it was like the people too. I
Yeah.
It was horrible, like haughtiness, like
Yeah.
you good.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Complete snobbiness.
Complete sloppiness.
Yeah.
And like with the bikini pictures, it was like, oh well, like they're not conservative. It's like, no, I'm American, you know?
Again, it goes back to my whole thing earlier of prude, of prude, conservatives, and I got the comment of, oh well you just like Sarah and Sam because you want to with them, and I was like, well, my reputation is, I would hope that you guys know me better than that. But if that's all you think I am, then I'm not going to be able to change your opinion. So bye. Um, but like I said, we got the last laugh. So um, now one final question on the media front of things. You wrote a post last night about the treatment of Melania Trump and Barron Trump that I found to be well, I think it's pretty representative of how I feel and just how the media is continuing to just be pig-headed. So. What is your perception of the first family and how they're being treated?
I love the first family because when I look at the first family, I see my own family actually. My dad, he was married twice, and he has kids from a previous marriage, and then he married my mom, and then they had me and Sam, and then my little sister and my little brother. And it's funny because when you line up my family and then you line up the Trump family, it's actually kind of similar. I have two older sisters and an older brother, and then it's me and Sam, and then I have a little sister, and then I have a little brother. And it's like my little brother is like pretty close to Barron's age. And then I have a little sister, and then it's me and Sam, and we're kind of close to Tiffany's age. And then Michelle, Jess, and Drick, they're all close to Ivanka, Don Jr., and Eric's age. And they're all getting married, having kids if they don't already. And Melania is actually my mom's age, and Donald they're kind of close to my dad's age. So when I look at the Trump family, I kind of see my family. And, I just love the Trump family. I think it's wonderful. I love how you can go on their Instagram and you can see how their kids are playing in the White House. They're eating dinner at the table in the White House. I love how, I just love how there's like this family, like an actual family in the White House. We didn't really get to see that before. And it just really bothers the living hell out of me how the media will actually press on Melania and say that Donald Trump has an emotional abusive relationship with Melania because he was just kind of, I guess, being eager and a little rude, during the inauguration, which, like, she knows who she's married to, Donald is just eager, and he's just like, all right, I gotta do this, let's go, Melania, and that's Donald Trump, she knows who she's married to, and I don't see that as emotional, abusive. There's so many other, times where, like, they had, there's moments where there's such a loving and just like wonderful relationship, and it bothers me how that never gets any spotlight. And that probably never will because liberal, like the media is never going to ever just.
Yeah, and I was particularly bothered by the fact that two things that really bothered me. Um, the first one, and I still have never been able to make a sense of this. The media likes to act as if Tiffany is the forgotten daughter and that Trump doesn't love her.
Yeah.
And speaking as someone who also has, my parents are divorced. And the one thing I will say, both of them, they had a nasty, drag down, beat out divorce. But I will say this for my parents: when it came to me, they they put me first, and that's how I see Trump and both of his ex-wives that he had children with. I don't think he had children with his first wife, but I know he did with Marla and Ivana, and so like you, I can certainly relate to that. But then the second part that bothered me was how the the mainstream media has the audacity to go out there and say that, first of all, Rosie O'Donnell shot of her mouth and said that Donald Trump was autistic without any proof. And then there was that thing earlier this week that Barron would be the first homeschool shooter. We're talking about a 10-year-old kid here,
Yeah.
and that pissed me off to no end.
Right?
So,
Insanity. And it's just like all that negativity, like the media creates it. Like that's what people want to know why like half the country hates the Trumps, why they don't like the family. It's because the media like creates it. Like they don't like the reason why I think one of the reasons why I just kind of fell in love so much with the family was because I sounds so funny, but like I stalked their media accounts. You go back to when like they don't post relating to the election, and you get to kind of see who they really were. And like Melania's account, specifically hers, you kind of get to see how she was as a mother, and it's so normal. It was actually weird. She took a picture of Barron at his basketball game, and then she took a picture of like the baseball field, and you
yeah.
know, her son like up to that and like, oh, like go team, hashtag undefeated, and it's like, how normal can you get? Like the average mother could relate to this, and she's married to this billionaire, and she sits in a Rolls Royce, and like it's like, but this is so relatable. Every mother could relate to this, and Hillary Clinton and all the other politicians, like they don't do anything like this.
Yeah,
And I wish that people would understand how normal the Trumps are. People want to be like, they have all this money, and it's like, yeah, but like they love to be just a family, and they love to do all these family things, and they love to spend time with their children, and they love to do things with their children. Like Donald Trump Jr., oh my gosh, his Instagram, he does the most normal things ever. He's like, he takes pictures of his kids, like, like sleeping funny, or like camping, or eating breakfast. It's like it's sweet, and it's like America can relate to that, and America can fall in love with that, and that's what can connect the White House to our an average American household.
yeah, I completely agree with that. And it's a wonderful thing to see. So, moving on, this is kind of an open-ended question. So now that the election is over, I'm curious, where are you and your sister going to be taking a break from politics? Are you guys going to continue with, activism or journal? Are you taking on a journalistic role? What are you guys doing? Uh,
It's kind of hard to stop being involved in politics. I'm sure you know.
it is.
It's like you just can't stop being involved. I think Sam and I will continue our just like our small activism, and you'll mostly see our spirit just kind of continuing, and who knows, maybe you'll see us kind of more pushing more going down a more journalistic route, or who knows? We don't really know how more so we want to get involved. We know we do want to get involved, but we know for sure that the American patriotic Trump spirit, that is definitely going to continue.
Well, like I said,
Or clothes.
yeah, I think that goes more for your sister who, if you don't mind me asking, the impression I get from your sister at the least, I would have to interview her, but the one thing that I find funny about your sister is the media, kind of portrayed her as, this Barbie doll, and this swimsuit model. So she literally went out and just kind of made a meme out of herself, and trolled them, with irony, I guess. So.
No, 100%. But it's like, oh gosh, it's like, what can you do? She answered their questions, but they didn't want to.
Yeah.
They didn't want her answer.
Well, like I said, if you want to get involved in, more journalistic stuff, we have I'm running a publication with 4 other people, and we need more writers. So if you're interested, I would maybe love to have you on the team. But anyway, Sarah, thanks for joining us. And before you go, where can people find you and connect with you on the internet and elsewhere?
Well, you can find me anywhere, but I have Instagram and Twitter at @Hagmayer, S and then Hagmayer, or on Facebook, Sarah, Sarah, space Hagmayer, Hagmayer.
And that concludes my interview with Sarah Hagmayer, who I want to thank once again for coming on the program. It's been quite a long process in the making, but I'm so glad, Sarah, that you and I got the chance to sit down and chat and get to know each other better as colleagues in the continuing fight for conservatism and for Americana culture. Folks, without a doubt, you heard it here. Sarah definitely is a genuine patriot, a genuine person who loves America, and the smear against her from the media and from the uber left and from the creepish stalkers on social media, some of whom threatened to rape and do other horrible things to her and her sister. All that's BS. She's a great person, and I'm honored to call her an ally in this fight for liberty, this continuing fight. And folks, we did it. Donald Trump is president now, and the fight's not over, but we're here, and we're here to stay. All right, folks, I want to thank you for listening to Whitfield the podcast. Feel free to visit my website at thesamwhitfield.com. Also visit AmericanWatchman.org for content from me and my other colleagues over there. And you can follow me on Twitter at SamDeVere_NGC, hashtag WA Podcast. And folks, thanks for tuning into the program once again. I'll see you next episode. God bless and God save this great nation.